Commander Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of Mining Station Delta 7, watching the endless dance of ice and rock against the star-speckled void. 20 years of service in the Asteroid Security Force had taught her to read the belt like a book. Every spinning fragment, every dust cloud, every seemingly random trajectory held meaning. "Ma'am, we're picking up anomalous readings in Sector 47. Lieutenant Rivera's voice crackled through her neural link. "Pattern matches the signature we've been tracking for the past month." Sarah's fingers traced invisible patterns on the reinforced glass, mapping quantum trajectories only veteran belt rats could perceive. "Show me the mining manifest for that sector." Holographic data shimmered to life before her. On the surface, it displayed nothing but routine operations: the Zhang family's ice processing facility, 3 independent mineral extractors, and a handful of automated collection drones. But Sarah saw the deeper pattern in their movements, the careful choreography that maintained the belt's invisible defense grid. "Interesting," she murmured. "Our visitors are being more bold this time. They're actually trying to map the resonance network." The alien vessel, classified as Unknown Contact Echo 3, had been probing the edges of human-controlled space for weeks. Like others before it, it clearly expected to find nothing but primitive mining operations. After all, humanity's asteroid belt infrastructure appeared hopelessly outdated to advanced civilizations. Nuclear pulse drives, basic shield generators, and hull designs that looked like they belonged in a museum. That was exactly how they wanted it to look. "Should we activate the Hawking Protocol?" Rivera asked, referring to their most sophisticated detection grid. Sarah shook her head. "Not yet. Let them think they're being clever. Patch me through to the Zhang facility." Old Mrs. Zhang's weathered face appeared in Sarah's visual field. The woman's eyes crinkled with understanding before Sarah could speak. "Already spotted them, Commander. My granddaughter's running interference through the ice dispersion patterns. Would you believe they still haven't figured out we can use suspended particles as sensor arrays?" "That's because they're looking for technology they understand," Sarah replied with a slight smile. "They'd never expect us to turn ice mining waste into a detection system. How's your family's new quantum resonator performing?" "Beautiful work. Wei installed it last week. Looks just like a standard pressure regulator from the outside. Even got it to rattle a bit when the processing plant kicks in. You know how those alien sensors love to dismiss anything that looks worn out." Sarah watched as the Zhang facility released another carefully calculated burst of ice crystals into space. To an outside observer, it would appear to be nothing more than routine processing waste. In reality, each particle's trajectory was precisely calculated, adding another layer to their surveillance network. The alien vessel adjusted its course slightly, still believing itself undetected. Sarah could almost feel their confusion as they tried to reconcile the apparent primitiveness of human operations with their complete inability to gain any tactical advantage in the belt. "Commander," Rivera's voice held a note of urgency. "They're charging what appears to be active scanning equipment, much more sophisticated than their previous attempts." "Right on schedule," Sarah noted calmly. "Signal the Erickson family operation in Sector 48. Tell them to begin their emergency maintenance procedure." Within minutes, a mining vessel that had been dormant for hours suddenly vented plasma in seemingly random bursts, a common sight in the belt, where aging equipment regularly required repairs. But each plasma burst contained precisely modulated particles that would scatter any active scans, all while appearing to be nothing more than a faulty drive manifold. The alien vessel's scans swept through empty space, finding nothing but what they expected to see: primitive human mining operations, struggling against the harsh realities of space with outdated technology. They couldn't detect the quantum-entangled communication network hidden in simple navigation buoys, or the sophisticated sensor arrays disguised as mineral collection nets, or the targeting systems masquerading as simple drilling lasers. "Ma'am," Rivera reported, "they're withdrawing to their previous observation position. Logged another failed attempt to map our operations." Sarah nodded, satisfaction evident in her posture. Humanity had learned long ago that the best defense wasn't overwhelming force or advanced technology. It was making your sophistication invisible. Every mining operation, every piece of equipment, every routine procedure had been carefully designed to serve both its stated purpose and a defensive function. "Send the usual update to command," she instructed. Another potential contact showing the same pattern of behavior. Initial interest, failed attempt to understand our capabilities, eventual withdrawal. Add a note that their scanning technology has improved since the last encounter. As she watched the alien ship retreat, Sarah reflected on the generations of human ingenuity that had created this system. The belt's defenses weren't built in a day. They were crafted over centuries, each family of miners adding their own innovations while maintaining the carefully cultivated appearance of technological backwardness. "Would you look at that?" River amused. "They're actually logging this region as strategically insignificant in their transmissions." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Best way to win a fight is to convince your opponent there isn't one worth having. She turned away from the viewport, but not before noting how the belt's endless dance of ice and rock had already shifted to fill the gaps in their sensor coverage. "Let's keep it that way." Strategic analyst Vorthak slouched in his command chair aboard the Celestial Seeker, his crystalline carapace dimming with frustration as he reviewed the sensor logs for the 12th time. Something about the human mining operations didn't add up, and after 3 cycles of observation, the mystery only deepened. "Playback sequence Delta 9 again," he instructed the ship's eye. "Focus on the waste discharge patterns from their ice processing facility." The holographic display materialized before him, showing what appeared to be a routine maintenance cycle. Ice particles scattered into space in seemingly random patterns, glittering against the void. But Vorthak's specialized training told him that true randomness was rare in space. Everything followed patterns, if you knew how to look. "Analysis complete," the AI reported. "Particle dispersion matches expected patterns for primitive processing equipment, with efficiency ratings of approximately 47%. Vorthak's sensory filaments twitched. Exactly. Every time. Exactly 47%. That's not inefficiency. That's precision masquerading as waste. His second-in-command, Ixel, moved closer to the display. "You believe they're deliberately maintaining the appearance of inefficiency. Look at their entire operation. Everything they do appears outdated, clumsy, inefficient. Yet they've maintained a presence in this asteroid field for centuries, successfully extracting resources under conditions that would challenge even our most advanced automated systems." The display shifted to show a human mining vessel adjusting its position with short bursts from maneuvering thrusters. The movements looked almost random, like a swimmer trying to navigate rough waters. But when Vorthak overlaid the paths of nearby asteroids, each adjustment perfectly positioned the vessel to maintain optimal coverage of its sector. "They're not adapting to the chaos of the asteroid field," he realized. "They're using it. Every piece of debris, every dust cloud, every spinning rock, it's all part of their system." A new alert caught his attention. One of the larger mining stations had begun what appeared to be a routine pressure test, venting small amounts of atmosphere in controlled bursts. But the timing of those bursts corresponded exactly with the moments when the Celestial Seeker's active sensors swept the area. "Shut down all active scans," Vorthak ordered suddenly. "Switch to passive observation only." "Sir." Ixel's confusion was evident in the rapid color changes rippling through her carapace. "They're watching us watch them," he explained. "Every time we activate our sensors, their operations shift slightly. Not enough to appear defensive, just enough to ensure we never get a clear picture of their true capabilities." The holographic display updated with new data, showing the positions of all known human mining operations in the sector. On the surface, they appeared to be randomly distributed based on resource concentrations. But when Vorthak applied certain filtering algorithms, there, he pointed with a crystalline appendage. Their positions form an interlocking network of coverage. Every time one vessel moves, others adjust to maintain the pattern. They're not just mining. They're maintaining a surveillance grid disguised as routine resource extraction. Ixel studied the pattern with growing appreciation. How long would it take to develop something like this? Generations, Vorthak answered. This isn't the work of a central authority imposing a defense system. This is the result of centuries of accumulated knowledge, passed down through their mining families, each adding their own innovations while maintaining the illusion of technological stagnation. A new transmission caught their attention. Simple radio communications between two mining vessels, discussing market prices and equipment maintenance. But when Vorthak ran the background static through advanced filtering, the static itself is carrying data, he announced, mandibles clicking with excitement. They've embedded a sophisticated communication network within what appears to be equipment noise. Everything we dismissed as primitive or inefficient serves a dual purpose. Sir, one of the sensor operators called out, we're detecting unusual vibrations from the larger asteroids in the field. Vorthak's carapace shifted to a deeper hue of realization. They've turned the entire asteroid field into a communication medium. Every impact, every natural collision carries data. They're not fighting against the chaos of space. They're using it as a weapon. The display showed a mining vessel releasing another cloud of processed ice crystals. This time, Vorthak watched with new understanding as the particles dispersed in what only appeared to be a wasteful pattern. Look at how the crystals catch the sunlight, he pointed out. They're creating a sensor array that's virtually invisible because it looks exactly like mining waste. Any attempt to neutralize it would be instantly noticeable as an attack on civilian operations. Ixel's sensory filaments waved thoughtfully. The humans have made their greatest weakness into their greatest strength. Any aggressive action against their mining operations would be an obvious military strike against civilian targets. And every defensive measure is hidden within normal mining operations, Vorthak added. They've created a system where they can track every object in their space while appearing to do nothing more than extract resources inefficiently. A new alert showed another mining vessel beginning what looked like routine maintenance. But now, Vorthak could see how each seemingly random action contributed to the larger system of surveillance and defense. Send word to the fleet, he ordered. The humans haven't survived in the asteroid belt through luck or superior technology. They've survived by turning their entire industrial operation into a weapon so subtle that most species don't even realize it exists. As the celestial seeker prepared to withdraw, Vorthak watched the endless dance of miners and asteroids with new respect. The humans hadn't just adapted to life in the belt. They had turned it into an invisible fortress, hiding its strength behind a carefully maintained facade of primitive technology and inefficient operations. Perhaps, he mused, true advancement isn't about showing your capabilities, but about making them invisible to those who would challenge them. The holographic meeting room aboard mining station Delta 7 flickered to life as representatives from the major mining families gathered for their monthly equipment standardization meeting. To any outside observer, it would appear to be nothing more than a routine discussion of maintenance protocols and efficiency standards. In reality, it was one of the belt's most sophisticated tactical planning sessions. Wei Zong, fresh from her shift, managing the family's ice processing facility, spoke first. The Curie crystals we developed last month are performing better than expected. When embedded in standard ice waste, they amplify our quantum detection range by 300% while appearing as nothing more than routine processing contamination. Commander Sarah Chen nodded approvingly. The alien vessel nearly missed them completely. Their sensors classified the crystals as impurities in our extraction process. How are the production costs? That's the beautiful part, Wei grinned. We're actually making a profit selling them as low-grade industrial diamonds to Earth-based manufacturers. The quantum properties only activate under specific radiation conditions found in the belt. Across the room, Marcus Erickson, whose family had been mining the outer belt for 5 generations, pulled up a new schematic. We've integrated the crystals into our latest debris shield design. From the outside, it looks like standard rock scatter protection, complete with impact marks and stress fractures. But the crystalline matrix can channel energy from kinetic impacts directly into our sensor network. The room's attention shifted as Elena Rodriguez, chief engineer of the Rodriguez Mining Collective, stood up. Her family had pioneered many of the techniques that made the belt's invisible defense network possible. The aliens are getting more sophisticated in their analysis, she reported, bringing up a series of sensor readings. They're starting to notice that our inefficiencies are too consistent. We need to introduce more apparent randomness into our operations. Old Mrs. Zhang, who had seen more alien observation attempts than anyone else in the room, smiled knowingly. Already ahead of you, dear. We've modified our waste disposal algorithms to include truly random elements alongside our coordinated patterns. To their sensors, it now looks like we're simply terrible at maintaining consistent standards. Commander Chen watched as the family shared innovations and refinements, each contributing to the endless evolution of their defensive systems. What had begun centuries ago as simple survival techniques had grown into something far more sophisticated. New development from the Patel family. Arjun Patel announced, his excitement barely contained. We've found a way to use our standard mining lasers to create temporary quantum entanglement between dust particles. When we process asteroids, we're actually seeding the entire sector with linked particles that act as communication relays. The display showed a mining laser carrying out what appeared to be routine asteroid cutting operations. But in the quantum realm, each burst was precisely calibrated to create a network of entangled particles disguised as mining debris. The beauty of it, Arjun continued, is that the entanglement looks exactly like normal molecular displacement from mining operations. Any attempt to detect it actually breaks the very thing they're trying to observe. Sarah watched as the families continued sharing their innovations, each new development building on generations of accumulated knowledge. The aliens would never understand how humans had turned their mining operations into an invisible fortress because they were looking for the wrong things. They expected to find advanced technology, sophisticated weapons, or obvious defensive systems. Instead, humans had created something far more powerful, a defense network that was indistinguishable from civilian industrial operations. Update from long-range tracking. Lieutenant Rivera's voice cut through the discussion. The alien vessel is moving into position for another observation attempt. They've modified their sensors again. Perfect timing. Weizhong replied. We've been wanting to test our new crystal configuration. Everyone remember, for the next few hours, we're nothing but simple miners having trouble with our outdated equipment. The meeting shifted seamlessly into its public face, a group of mining families discussing routine maintenance issues. But beneath that facade, every person in the room was simultaneously monitoring and adjusting the invisible defense grid that spanned the entire asteroid belt. As the alien ship began its observation run, the miners returned to their stations, each playing their part in the carefully choreographed dance of apparent inefficiency and hidden sophistication. Mining lasers that doubled as communication arrays carried out their work. Ice processing plants released precisely calculated waste patterns that formed sensor networks. And through it all, quantum entangled particles seeded throughout the belt carried encrypted data disguised as molecular noise. Commander Chen stood at her viewport once again, watching the ballet of ships, rocks, and ice that had protected humanity's presence in space for centuries. The best defense, she murmured, recalling words passed down through generations of belt families, is the one your enemy never realizes exists. Aboard the Celestial Seeker, Vorthak's crystalline form pulsed with intense colors as he presented his findings to the High Command via quantum link. The humans have created something unprecedented, he explained. Every attempt to understand their capabilities only reveals new layers of deception. Your fascination with these primitives is noted, Analyst Vorthak. First speaker Kizil responded, their form shimmering with skepticism. But surely their defenses cannot be as sophisticated as you suggest. That's exactly what makes them dangerous, Vorthak countered. They've turned their apparent weakness into an impenetrable shield. Every mining operation is a disguised weapons platform. Every maintenance procedure masks a tactical maneuver. They'd weaponized inefficiency itself. The High Command's collective consciousness rippled with consideration. After several moments, second speaker Turin's voice echoed through the quantum link. A test, then. You have authorization to probe their defenses. Carefully. We must understand the true extent of their capabilities. Aboard mining station Delta 7, Commander Sarah Chen was reviewing maintenance logs when the alert came through. Multiple quantum signatures detected, Lieutenant Rivera reported. They're not even trying to hide their approach this time. Sarah's eyes narrowed as she studied the tactical display. The alien vessel had brought friends. 3 additional ships had emerged from quantum space, their formations suggesting military precision. All stations, initiate Protocol Omega, she broadcast through the quantum-entangled crystal network. Remember, we're nothing but simple miners having a very bad day. Across the belt, human mining operations began experiencing a remarkable series of equipment malfunctions. The John family's ice processing facility suddenly vented huge clouds of crystalline waste, creating a sensor scattering field that just happened to blind certain approaches to their sector. The Ericsson's mining lasers developed power fluctuations that sent seemingly random energy pulses through the asteroid field, creating a sophisticated detection grid disguised as equipment failure. Vorthak watched in fascination as the human operations descended into apparent chaos. Observe, he instructed his fellow analysts. Every malfunction, every mistake serves a tactical purpose. They're creating a defensive network using nothing but industrial accidents. The alien fleet began its advance, probing the edges of human-controlled space with increasingly sophisticated scanning equipment. But for every scan, there was a convenient equipment failure that scattered the signals. For every attempted approach vector, there was a mining ship clumsily adjusting its position in a way that just happened to maintain optimal defensive coverage. They're responding to our presence, Ixel noted, her carapace shifting with appreciation. But in a way that maintains perfect deniability. We can't prove any of this is defensive. It all appears to be routine industrial mishaps. The test escalated as the alien fleet deployed more advanced scanning technology. In response, the human miners seemed to have an impossible string of bad luck with their equipment. Power systems overloaded in ways that created electromagnetic interference. Mineral processing plants released clouds of magnetically charged particles that played havoc with sensor systems. Remarkable, Vorthak breathed as he watched a mining vessel execute what appeared to be a clumsy course correction. The movement looked like a desperate attempt to compensate for malfunctioning thrusters, but it perfectly positioned the ship to monitor the alien fleet's movements using nothing but standard mining sensors. Deep in the belt, old Mrs. Sean was coaching her granddaughter through a particularly delicate piece of defensive choreography. Remember, dear, when the processing plant's quantum crystalline matrix overloads, make sure it looks like we're panicking about the equipment damage. The fact that the overload creates a detection field capable of tracking quantum state ships is purely coincidental. The alien fleet pressed deeper into the belt, and the human response escalated accordingly. More equipment failures, more industrial accidents, more clouds of sensor scattering debris. Each incident appeared isolated and uncoordinated, yet together they formed an interlocking defensive network of staggering complexity. They're not even using weapons, one of Vorthak's junior analysts observed. They're beating us with mining equipment and waste management. The test reached its climax as the alien fleet attempted to penetrate what appeared to be a gap in the human mining operations. Immediately, 3 separate mining vessels experienced simultaneous drive malfunctions, their emergency protocols sending them tumbling through space in ways that just happened to close the gap completely. End the test, Vorthak ordered, his crystalline form pulsing with colors of amazement and respect. We've seen enough. As the alien fleet withdrew, Commander Chen allowed herself a small smile. The belt's miners returned to their normal operations, their equipment problems mysteriously resolving themselves. To any observer, It would appear that a series of unfortunate industrial accidents had occurred and been resolved. "Send word to command," she instructed Rivera. "Tell them the latest wave of equipment malfunctions has been successfully managed, and all mining operations are returning to normal efficiency levels." The message went out through their quantum-entangled crystal network, hidden in what appeared to be routine maintenance reports. The belt's greatest defense remained intact. The absolute inability of any observer to prove it was a defense at all. Vorthak stood before the High Command, his crystalline form steady as he delivered his final report on the human mining operations. The quantum link chamber pulsed with the combined consciousness of the Empire's greatest strategic minds, all focused on his unprecedented conclusion. "We've been approaching this completely wrong," he stated. "We've been asking how such primitive operations could survive in contested space. The real question is, how did we miss their sophistication for so long?" First speaker Kazol's form shifted with interest. "Explain." "The humans haven't just created a defense system. They've created a completely new paradigm of space warfare. One where military capability is indistinguishable from civilian industrial operations." Vorthak projected his sensor logs into the shared consciousness space. "Every mining operation is a weapons platform. Every industrial process is a military maneuver. Every piece of outdated equipment serves multiple purposes." Commander Sarah Chen, unaware of the alien deliberations, was conducting her own review aboard mining station Delta 7. The recent test had revealed both strengths and weaknesses in their systems. The mining families were gathered once again, this time to refine their techniques based on the encounter. The crystalline waste dispersion patterns worked perfectly, Wei Zhang reported. Their quantum sensors classified them as industrial contamination, exactly as intended. "But we need to work on our apparent response times to equipment failures. We were almost too efficient at creating problems." The High Command's chamber hummed with intense discussion as Vorthak continued his analysis. "The humans have turned their greatest perceived weakness, their reliance on seemingly primitive mining operations, into an impenetrable defensive strategy. Any attack on their capabilities would appear to be an unjustified assault on civilian industrial operations. Their entire industrial base is a weapon," Ixel added through her own quantum link, "but one that cannot be classified as such without appearing to be the aggressor. They've created a defense that makes the very act of identifying it as a defense appear hostile." In the belt, the mining families continued their review. Elena Rodriguez was presenting new innovations in their laser drilling systems. "By modulating the cutting beams at specific frequencies, we can use them for both mining and long-range communication. The energy signatures are identical to standard industrial equipment, with slight efficiency problems. The beauty of it," Marcus Erickson added, "is that even if someone suspects what we're doing, they can't prove it without admitting they're analyzing civilian mining operations for military capabilities." The High Command's deliberation reached its conclusion. Second speaker Turen addressed Vorthak directly. "Your recommendation: formal recognition of the asteroid belt as sovereign human territory." Vorthak replied without hesitation. "Not because of their military strength, but because they've created something far more powerful, a defense system that makes the very act of attacking it politically impossible." Commander Chen received the notification of the alien withdrawal with quiet satisfaction. The message came hidden in what appeared to be routine market updates. Mineral prices were stabilizing. Shipping lanes were clear, and various species had formally recognized human claims to their mining sectors. "They finally understand," she mused, watching the eternal dance of ships and asteroids through her viewport. "Not everything, of course. They'll never know about the quantum-entangled crystal network or the gravity wave communication system hidden in our waste management procedures, or 100 other innovations we've woven into daily operations." The alien fleet departed, leaving behind observation buoys that were quickly rendered useless by convenient equipment failures and industrial accidents that scattered their sensor coverage. But they also left behind something else, a newfound respect for human ingenuity. In the High Command chamber, Vorthak delivered his final observation. The humans haven't just survived in the asteroid belt. They've turned it into an entirely new form of territorial defense. They've proven that true sophistication isn't about displaying your capabilities, but about making them invisible to those who would challenge them. Back in the belt, life continued as normal. Mining ships carved up asteroids with lasers that doubled as communication arrays. Processing plants released waste patterns that formed sensor networks. Families passed down their techniques for hiding sophisticated technology behind a facade of primitive equipment. And through it all, humanity's greatest defense remained intact, the absolute impossibility of proving it was a defense at all. The asteroid belt continued its eternal dance, a space filled with nothing but simple miners going about their daily work, protecting their territory through nothing more than industrial inefficiency and equipment malfunctions. As Commander Chen prepared her daily report, she smiled at the latest message from the alien observers. Sector classified as economically significant, but militarily negligible. Recommend maintaining peaceful trade relations with local mining operations. The best victory, she murmured, repeating words passed down through generations of belt families, is the one where your opponent never realizes they were in a fight at all.